Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Enthusiast podcast. My name is Aaron Randak, joined by
Ash McConnell.
And Luke McGee.
We have made it to the second week of season 3. It's really monumental things here over at Sports Enthusiast HQ, even though we're doing this virtually. Obviously, a big week. The old big games coming up. Guys, any thoughts before we dive into it?
In my defense,
Luke?
as I had the Jaguars in the playoffs, they did win the first game. Doesn't matter they lost the next 15. I was close. Ashton, what do you think?
Well, we'll get more to it, but one of my teams made the Super Bowl while the other team, Seattle. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
One of my teams also made the Super Bowl. Now, we'll just get right in the NFL. We'll wait till the Super Bowl for, here shortly. Start out with, one of the biggest trades we've seen in a while. Matthew Stafford going to the Rams. Lions get back Jared Goff and a pair of first-round picks. Guys, who won the trade? Just kind of expand a little bit about it for each team.
Lucas, I'll let you start.
As everybody knows at this point, and I've gotten in many arguments with people outside of the Sports Enthusiast HQ, I am not that big on Stafford. I would not have made a 2 first-rounders trade for him. I mean, yeah, they got rid of Goff. That was probably better, so they didn't have to keep him on contract. But I don't know if he was worth 2 first-rounders to me. It just makes me wonder what Watson's worth. I mean, 4, 5? I mean, that's where my head goes. That's just how I feel about Stafford. He's going to prove me wrong, blah, blah, blah. I'm aware. He's got great receivers in Los Angeles. I'm sure this team's going to work perfectly fine. But I'm going to eye on the side of caution. I'm going to actually probably not be as big on the Rams this year as I would have going in with Goff. However, I also will be lower on the Rams. Give me the Lions, my bad. Give me the Lions for another 0-16 season. Ashton, what do you think?
I think I will say I think both teams won this, but I think the Rams, what they've realized is with Stafford now, they are in a win now mode. Obviously, Aaron Donald, beast, Jalen Ramsey, beast, and basically what was holding them back was Jared Goff, and not to mention now with this trade, Stafford's deal has 2 years left. And so what this means is compared to Goff's 4 years left on his deal, after 2 years they can kind of go all in. And if they don't want to keep him, they can try out a young QB, maybe on a cheaper deal and try that out. But with Stafford, he is an amazing quarterback. I mean, you saw it early on in Detroit. He just did not have the help around him as much, meaning the defense was not helping at all. You saw that last year too. And obviously the O-line wasn't helping either. And regarding the first-round picks, yes, while they don't have a first-round pick now till 2024, I think what this organization is telling you is that they don't have to work. They can develop these later rounds. It doesn't matter if it's a second-rounder, a sixth-rounder, even an undrafted. They have the confidence that they can bring in any guy and develop him into a player in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Rams' history with first-round picks, it has not been fantastic. Really, the only one they've hit on in recent years is Aaron Donald. But, other than that, their past 7 have been essentially all busts, including Jared Goff. And like I said last week, I do think Stafford is a top 10 quarterback. Just the play backs that up. And going into this new offense with Sean McVay, he is going to be a problem for defenses. And looking at it, I believe, would be up there in terms of the betting favorite for MVP, as he's going to throw for a ton of yards in this offense, and they're going to be super fun to watch, and they're going to be super good. As for who won the trade, I would say both teams, made out very well. The Lions got what they wanted. They got their picks. They're kind of starting this rebuild. And for the Rams, you got a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. All right, Lucas, what were you talking about?
So I guess the only thing I wanted to say was I think it's still a little early to call Jared Goff a bust. He's 26. Quarterbacks of his play style can normally get to about 34. I think he's got another 8 years left. I'm not going to call him a bust yet. I think he's overpaid.
For the
more
Rams,
than
he was a
he's-
bust.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say
I
it
mean,
in that
he did get
sense.
them to a Super Bowl, but like for
Yeah.
the Rams' first round pick, he didn't for the
I mean, he
number
did
one
better than
overall
the
pick. He
other.
didn't live up to the bill.
He did better than the other first pick or the second pick in that draft, Mr. Carson Wentz. Or is that bad
At
I
draft?
mean,
least
Carson Wentz
Wentz,
should have won MVP
yeah,
when he
and
when
at
when
least he's
he
got a.
got hurt.
Oh, I was
Sorry.
gonna say he at least Carson Wentz has a ring on his finger. And speaking of those two, though, I think the issue is the Rams, like with the Eagles, paid these guys after making it to the Super Bowl. They paid them too early without seeing what they have in store, and that's where it really bit them. And I think now with this trade, the Rams get to kind of move away from that, especially with Stafford only having 2 years left on his deal compared to.
Yeah. Anything else on old Matt Stafford?
I think I'm good personally.
Until well, expanding on that topic, apparently he wanted to trade to anywhere but New England. You guys have brought up the point. Could this be the end of Belichick's dominance? I think we all know my opinion on this, but you guys can go ahead and expand on that a little bit.
Lucas, I'll let you start.
To me, I think Belichick's already seen a slight demise beginning, and I think it's not as much his fault as it is the talent he's being handed. I mean, Cam Newton was playing amazing, got COVID, came back worse than ever.
Cam Newton sucked the whole year.
His first few games were not bad, and I will argue you on that. He did start very solid those 2 games that he played before COVID. After COVID, he sucked. He was so bad.
I mean, his first game he threw for 155 yards. His second one he did throw for 397, but then after that 162, 157, 98, 174, 274, 118. and then let's not mention the 84, 69, 34.
I mean, again, he had COVID, but I think this team's just starting to lack talent, which was bound to happen eventually. You can be good for so long, but eventually you're just not going to be able to keep putting that talent on the field. I think now is when we see it, and I think this will be the spin-off for the Patriots. Ashton, go ahead.
For me, I think it's tough because obviously you saw the lack of talent with Tom Brady when Tom Brady left. I mean, Tom Brady was almost kind of their franchise, their dynasty. But you have to also give Bill Belichick credit for creating these great, like the defense. He is known as a defensive specialist. I mean, he did a great job with that. And going to this year, I mean, how many players did they have opt out? That especially on defense. And for that they had 6-7 wins. Once you get those guys back and you can maybe pick up a star receiver, figure out your QB situation, they might have the chance to turn this around and possibly be back not necessarily to the Super Bowls, but maybe back to the playoffs.
I do think, well, obviously, rebuilds and stuff like that, but I think the Patriots still have a Super Bowl caliber defense. It's just can their offense keep pace? And that obviously all starts with quarterback. And all Bill Belichick needs, in my opinion, is just a middle of the road, quarterback that can get the job done and that can just make, the easy throws, which Cam Newton could not do last year. He was horrible. So if you just get a quarterback that can just make the throws, I think they'll be right back in Super Bowl contention next year with, once they get all those guys back that opted out. Anything else?
Yeah, it just I think what the Patriots are gonna have to do is I think they're gonna have to go through free agency because obviously when Bill Belichick's been there, their first round draft picks have usually been defense because offensively every time you saw that with N'Keal Harry. I mean he isn't. I mean that maybe there's a chance he could develop into a solid player, but right now he just has been kind of a bust. So. It'll be interesting to see what New England does, but if they can just figure out the offense, I think they can be back to where they once were.
Yeah, if that's all we have for that, we're going to move on to the Niners interested in Kirk Cousins. Once again, you guys probably know my stance on this, but Lucas, go ahead and share your thoughts.
It sounds like the Niners want another Jimmy Garoppolo. but somehow worse. Everyone knows my
No.
stance on Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. Obviously, I'm not going to walk up here and say he's going to be good in any form, but he might look a little better in this offense because he can hand the ball off 45 times a game like Garoppolo does, and I think that's going to help a lot. This multi-running back system for Kirk Cousins will probably do better than just Dalvin Cook. Well, I guess Madison's there too, but I think he'll also benefit from a lockdown defense that San Francisco has when they can stay healthy and not all simultaneously get COVID and or get hurt. And to me, I think that the Vikings would be able to win a trade if they could dump off Kirk Cousins and get something back with him getting to the end of his deal. I don't know if I would want to bring him back as a Viking. Obviously, Aaron's going to disagree with me. We're all aware of that. But that's just my stance on it. Ash, you can go.
If I'm both teams, I don't know why you would even consider making this trade. Honestly, they're both on. As much as I hate on Kirk Cousins, if he went to the Niners, I think he would be just as good as Jimmy Garoppolo. Because the issue with the Niners this year, I mean, you've been seeing George Kittle is a big fan of Jimmy. He's a great leader for that roster, great locker room presence. I mean, you saw this past year, they were filled with injuries after making the Super Bowl. If Jimmy can just get that confidence back, I think the Niners can get back to where they were. And with Kirk Cousins, I mean, if Tom Brady didn't have the old line that he had in New England, would he be where he was today? I mean, Kirk Cousins, not saying Kirk Cousins will be Tom Brady, but if the Vikings can help develop a decent O line, I think Kirk Cousins can prove to be effective for Minnesota.
I think Kirk wins either way in this deal because if he goes to Kyle Shanahan, that is a match made in heaven. He was his coach in Washington. People don't realize that. I think Kirk would love it in San Francisco, but also if you're the Vikings, there's no reason you make this trade. Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback, despite what people say.
No.
And argue against it?
Here's my thing. There's not a ton of evidence of a strong team coming outside of him. I mean, there's a couple of good years in Washington. This Vikings team hasn't done much with him. They had a good year there. This last year they weren't. I mean, to me, he just doesn't he lacks consistency. He doesn't get the job done for me. And that's
Correct me if
I
I'm
sit.
wrong. Didn't he beat New Orleans in New Orleans just a year and a month ago?
And I mean, you could listen
In the
to New Orleans
playoffs?
fans talk about it for a year and a half about how they got robbed in that game. Obviously,
Who won?
you're gonna have times where he's gonna play better, but I don't see a franchise quarterback because I don't see him ever winning a Super Bowl. And that's just where I sit.
Whether you see him winning a Super Bowl or not, I don't think there's much debate that he can be on a Super Bowl roster, and if he has the roster around him, he can lead it.
If you give him Asante Samuel, Deion Sanders, Sean Taylor, if you gave him a god team, I'm sure he could make it to the Super Bowl, Aaron.
He's a top 10 quarterback. He's number 9. I ranked him.
No.
Stafford's 8.
No.
Oh, okay. Name 10 quarterbacks ahead of him.
It's hard to do off the
Kirk Cousins is one of the top deep ball passers in the NFL. He has led this Vikings offense for 3 years now. He's been putting up fantastic stats. His fourth quarter numbers are very good, despite what people say. He is clutch in prime time, and I just think, there's no reason the Vikings should make this trade. But if they do, they better go after Watson.
Hey Ashton, can you hand me
What?
the Vikings glasses? I want to see what Aaron sees. You're a fan. You're biased. I don't understand where you're coming from.
Am I wrong?
I don't.
Look up the stats, dude.
I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm aware, but not a franchise quarterback. Ashton, go ahead and talk.
I agree with this. I don't think Kirk Cousins is really a top quarterback, but as much as I hate on Kirk Cousins, I gotta say this: would players like Drew Brees, Big Ben, Tom Brady have won their rings without an O-line? And what has the Vikings done? Given him a crappy O-line. If Kirk Cousins, like you saw that with Jimmy G, when they went on their Super Bowl runs. They had a great O line, and yes, while he wasn't mobile, that's what you get if you got to support the non-mobile QBs with a great O line, and the Vikings haven't done that so far. And if they can do that, Kirk can definitely be like what Jimmy G was a couple years ago. So I station just has to do a better job of that.
Kirk Cousins had a 117 quarterback rating in the fourth quarter last year. That's good.
I'm
Sorry.
sure the one that says quarterback rating is an irrelevant statistic.
I'm just saying.
But we both know how well you can kind of argue both ways on a statistic if you really know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
My
I'm not
viewpoint-
disagreeing with that.
My viewpoint, until I am honestly shown otherwise with my two eyes when I am watching Kirk Cousins, I will continue to say he doesn't quite have it. But he might do better in a Niners offense than a Vikings offense, and he may make me shut up. I don't
Kirk
see this
Cousins
trade happening.
didn't throw an interception in the red zone
I don't
last
see
year.
this. I don't see this trade happening. I think that Minnesota's going to ride it out with Cousins, go to a younger quarterback after him. But I mean, again,
I agree. I do agree with that. I think that this trade will not happen.
and if it does, you're going to have weird cap implications that will have to happen, as Cousins
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot, and there's no way in hell that the Niners can hold Garoppolo and Cousins at the same time. That would be a lot of money on two quarterbacks.
They would trade them straight up, probably.
Yeah, then the Vikings are stuck with Garoppolo. I mean,
That's what I'm
Garoppolo's still
like. That's
okay.
why I talked about Watson, because you're going to get a haul and a half for Kirk Cousins. It's probably Matthew Stafford, if not more, type of haul, and then you flip that for Watson. That'd be the only way I see this happening.
You think they're going to get more for Kirk Cousins than they did Matt Stafford, but you rank Matt Stafford ahead of Kirk Cousins?
Kirk
Are we
Cousins
seeing
is
an
younger,
inconsistency?
isn't he?
Not by much, if
He's
any.
younger.
Is he actually? I think it's damn close.
Let's do
Kirk
some
is
research
definitely
here.
in his 30s.
I was going to say, I know he's in his 30s. Cousins is
32.
32.
What's Matt?
He's the
Oh, I guess
same
what's
age.
Matt Stafford?
30. They're the
Okay.
same age.
All right. Still, if not similar haul, I still think it'll be a similar haul. Probably
I mean, you're
two
gonna walk
first-round
away
picks and
with-
Jimmy
I was gonna
G.
say, walk away with 2 first-round
Well-
picks, Jimmy G, or you're going to move Jimmy G, 2 first-rounders, and attract Houston, make that deal. Well, 3, I guess. Maybe 4.
And what-
It'll be 3. You're not getting 4.
I
Why-
don't
like-
know if that would be something that Minnesota would want to do. But, Ashton, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, what's interesting with Jimmy G's contract, I don't know how it works with Kirk's, but with Jimmy G's, I believe after this year, the cap hit goes all the way down to like 2 or 3 mil. So if the Niners really wanted to, they could just cut him. And if the Vikings were to get in that situation, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how Kirk's situation works with his contract, but
I don't
wonder if
believe
that would
Kirk's
be-
is structured that way. I believe it'd be 2
Okay.
years for Kirk's to be cuttable.
I was going to say,
Okay.
I think he's more of a traditional style contract than what Garoppolo was signed to. Well, negotiated to.
All right. Anything else on Kirk? Okay. Now, the Super Bowl is Sunday. X factor for each team. We're starting out with Lucas for the Bucks and Chiefs, but you get it.
For the Bucks, my X factor,
Yeah.
again, some people would argue this guy isn't an X factor. It's going to be Carlton Davis. He's corner for Tampa Bay. He's probably going to get tasked with having to shut down most of that passing game. To me, I don't think that you'll see a lot of man-to-man out of Tampa Bay. You're going against Tyreek Hill, going against Travis Kelce. It's not really that kind of a game, in my opinion. You're going against Patrick Mahomes. To me, you got to do everything you can to keep Hill off the field, and that's going to fall onto Carlton Davis / Winfield, if Winfield plays. And that's, to me, just a muggy spot. So you need to see a great pass defense. Everyone knows that. I think it falls on the corner. For the Chiefs, my X factor is going to be the run game. Whichever running back they happen to be playing. I don't know if Clyde's back. I haven't looked. I know he's been dealing with stuff. If it's Le'Veon that needs to come out and give Tampa Bay a reason to put a lot of people in the box, give them a reason to have to give Tyreek Hill the chance to really get open. And I think that's going to cause. I think that's how this game's won either way, because I feel like this game's going to be a lot closer than most people think. Actually, you can go ahead.
All right, so my X factors. We'll start with the Bucks. For the Bucks, I get edge rushers in Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. With how depleted the Chiefs' O-line has been, obviously Eric Fisher towards Achilles, he's out for the year. I think they're gonna have to put pressure and try and contain Patrick Mahomes because obviously. But if you can kind of limit him into creating the big plays to whether it's Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Cole Hardman, it's just all about limiting his big plays. And as far as the Chiefs, got this off of first things first. Lineman or off tackle Mike Remmers. He is previously known for playing in the Super Bowl against the Broncos when he was with the Panthers and gave up 3 sacks, including 2 strip sacks. Big. And that was kind of part of the reason why they lost. So I think he's going to have to do a great job stepping in and kind of containing whether it's Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, whoever's on the edge. He's going to have to do a great job protecting Patty and can do what he did in that last Super Bowl.
I think something that I want to cut in with is he also had to block Von Miller when Von Miller was extremely good, like alarmingly good. I mean, that's no easy task. I don't see the same ability out of Shaq Barrett. He's up there, but he's not Von Miller. I think Remmers will play a better game. I've always supported Remmers, his Carolina boy, but yeah, that's just where I wanted to hop in there. Aaron, go ahead.
Well, my X factor for the Bucks, you could argue, X factor or defensive player of the year, but I would say Devin White because he's going to have a huge task today, Sunday, both stopping, the run and even in the passing game, dropping back in coverage. He's one of the best. He's probably the best linebacker in football, and he's going to have a lot on his plate Sunday. As for the Chiefs, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire as my X factor because I think if the Chiefs are going to win this game, they do need to run the ball. Unlike what many people may think, they're not just going to throw the ball all over the yard. I do think they will try to establish the run, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be at the forefront of that. One key for each team, starting with Lucas.
I kind of hinted at it when I did my X Factor. To me, the Chiefs' key is you got to establish the run. As Aaron was saying, I mean, you need to pull people up so that you can have people get open downfield, so Patty can do Patty things. Tampa Bay, the key to me will be getting the offense rolling. I think their defense will do what they can. I mean, it's still Kansas City's offense. Very good offense. To me, the Kansas City's defense will have troubles with Tampa Bay's offense if Tampa Bay can do what I think they need to do. Obviously, Brady's not going to be able to throw the ball as many times as what Bruce Arians would want. It's getting late in the season. I'm seeing age. It is Tom Brady. I know, blah, 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 blah. But to me, it's going to fall on this run game between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. And to me, the key is establishing the run. Ashton, go ahead.
All right, for the Bucks, I think the main key is mainly just putting pressure on Patty. I mean, if you can limit Patty and kind of restrict him from these big plays, maybe force him into either a strip sack or a dumb pick from him, which is very rare. I mean, that's really the main thing, especially with how depleted this O-line is. But that leads to my next key with the Chiefs is protecting Patty and getting the run game going. I mean, like I said with Mike Remmers, with how depleted this O-line is, they're going to have to step up to the next level, let Patty make the big plays that he can. And as far as the run game goes, even if it's not the big plays, as long as they can have a somewhat promising run game for this game, I mean, just kind of give the defense where they can't just expect pass, where they also have to prepare for the run. That's going to be the main thing for the Chiefs.
For me, if you're the Bucks, you gotta just avoid big plays because obviously with this Chiefs offense, you have speed everywhere and guys that can just burn you every single play. So you have to avoid the big play, and then if you're the Chiefs, you just have to establish the run, like you guys mentioned. That's gonna be the big thing in this game. Make them that Bucks defense come up and then beat them over top. I think is the big thing. Next, we're gonna get into our predictions. The over under for this game is 56. So say if you're over or under that, and then score MVP.
Okay, here we go. I got to make sure my numbers add up because I don't want to say the wrong over-under because I didn't check the over-under till just now.
56 divided by 2 is 28.
Thank you. That actually helps a lot. I'm taking the over, personally. I see 38-28, and I will be taking the Buccaneers because I pick dogs often, and I feel like I'm a big fan of Bruce Arians, and I think this is a perfect time for him to really break out the way that I think he can. And my MVP will be Leonard Fournette because I do believe the run defense in Kansas City may find it troublesome going against Tom Brady. You have to kind of always be ready for that pass. Same as the other side with Patrick Mahomes. It's a great quarterback Super Bowl. I got Leonard Fournette. Ashton, go ahead.
Wow. Okay. So I am going to be taking the over for this, and how I think the game's going to go. I think, I'll say I think the Chiefs will defeat the Bucks 35-31. I kind of same thing go as the first matchup. They'll spot, and then Tampa will obviously get it going as the game goes on later, but the Chiefs will close it out at the end, and Super Bowl MVP, got to give it to him, Patty Mahomes. I don't think anyone else was like 3 picks or something like that. I don't see anyone else taking it over him.
I also have the over and the Chiefs, Ashton, but I do have a different MVP. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire winning MVP. I kind of expect him to just run all over this Bucks team. The way I see kind of the game flow going, I expect the Chiefs to get out, hot early and then just kind of keep, banging it in there with Edwards-Helaire, and I think he'll rack up a ton of yards against this Bucks defense. And if the Bucks were to win, I would say that probably Devin White would be my MVP because of a big defensive game or something along those lines. But yeah, like I said, Chiefs, I got them 34-27. Prop bets, the time that a lot of you are waiting for. We'll start with the coin toss. This is very just random. 105 minus 105 each way, so you're gonna lose money. Don't bet it. But what do we think?
Tails.
I mean, you've heard the saying, tails never fails, and like Randy Moss says, you play Madden, you always pick tails.
Yep, tails never fails. Next one. What Gatorade will be dumped on the winning coach? The odds: orange is plus 160, red is plus 165, lime green / yellow is plus 330, clear / water is plus 650, blue is plus 800, and purple is plus 1300. As for a little history, last year when the Chiefs won, it was orange. Thoughts?
Honestly, when I sat down in this chair, I thought purple, and then I changed to orange. Now that I've heard the odds, give me purple.
I mean,
There's some good numbers.
The main color of the two teams is red, so I'm gonna have to go with red. I feel like, yeah, that's all I got.
I'm going to go with the favorite orange here, just because the Chiefs dumped orange last year, so I think they're going to stick with that trend, kind of keep on a, tradition type of thing. Next one, national anthem prop bets. Over-under is 159. Odds for the over is even. The under is minus 140. So that's kind of thoughts on that. As for a little history, the last 2 years it was both 149. Year before that it was 153. And then it was over 2 minutes the 3 years before that.
I have it over pretty handily.
Really? You think?
I think
Was
this
it
is going to
Eric
be a
Church?
more long... Is that who it is? I still feel like it's going to be a long, drawn-out national anthem. I think that I mean, we're just due for a longer drawn out one. It's been a long year. I feel like it's just gonna reciprocate through the
We
music.
do have a two-personer. The last two-personer was 208 in Super Bowl 40. It's Eric Church and Jasmine Sullivan.
I do for
So
sure have the over now that I know it's two people. You're gonna have to deal with pauses in between. Give me two, or give me the over. Sorry, Ashton, go ahead.
I'm still gonna go with the under. I feel like country singer is gonna pick up the pace a little bit. I know whoever I forget who you said, Aaron. I feel like
Jasmine
she'll
Sullivan.
yeah. I feel like Jasmine will go a little longer, but I feel like Eric Church will kind of pick up the pace with where they do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with Ashton here. I kind of think that, these guys are just going to roll along. You've seen the trend over the past 3 years. It's been under 2 minutes. So I'm going to stick with that trend and go with the under against the odds. Or with the odds, but bad money-wise. Now, this is a very interesting prop bet. Will the price of Bitcoin increase during the Super Bowl? The odds of it going up is minus 150. The odds of it going down is plus 110.
I think it'll go up. I just, judging by how it's been going steadily since our economy slowly boosted after or I guess in the later half of the pandemic. Hopefully, it's the later half. Knock on wood. Holy cow! Let's hope we're getting there. But it's gone up. I think it continues to go up. The only reason I'd see it dropping is off of sports betting reasons, and I don't think that's happening.
I'm probably I'm not much into the Bitcoin really as far as going up and down, but I'm just gonna go with going up. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Lucas said, the economy's been kind of slowly going up as far as recently, so I'm gonna go with increasing.
I also agree that it will go up. I have a couple bucks in Bitcoin now, and is up 22% in the past week. That's a lot. So I'm going to say that trend keeps going and take the minus 150 and keep her going. What position will the most valuable player be? I'm trying to find the odds on that. Give me a quick second.
You mean Super Bowl
Oh, here we
MVP?
go. Okay, yes. What
Okay.
position will the MVP of the Super Bowl be? Quarterback is minus 400, wide receiver is plus 500, tight ends plus 950, running backs plus 1,000, defense is plus 650, and kicker is plus 5,000.
Be right back. I'm gonna go put a bet in Vegas. I got running back.
Wow, I can't believe they don't have punter. Wow.
Throw some respect on the
No
punter
offensive
name.
line either.
Lucas?
I went running
He
back.
said,
I went running back.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I already said Patty was gonna win it, and if the Bucks win, I think Tom will win it. So I'm gonna say QB.
I'm also going running back here. Plus 1,000 is a crazy odd that I think is just a bit too much. Now, the next prop, or last and final prop, what will be mentioned first? Brady's age or the fact that he is in his 10th? The odds on it being his 10th Super Bowl is minus 200. Age is plus 150.
I think they'll bring up age, and I believe that because I think that they're going to have Brady running on the field, and I will go with, and I quote, "This is a 40-year-old quarterback in his 10th Super Bowl." I think that's the order they will say it. I think they'll both be said very closely together.
Honestly, I was thinking the exact same thing. I just feel like when explaining it, they'll obviously say the age because, I mean, look, I've mentioned with LeBron doing this at a high level at the age they're at. They're gonna talk about his age. Tom Brady, 40 plus years old, still doing this at this type of level, and then they'll bring up whatever Super Bowl, his 10th Super Bowl that he's in.
Yep, I do agree with you guys. I think it'll be age and kind of like that. Kind of. I'm thinking the Bucks are going to get the ball first, so Bucks come on the field, you know, and Tom Brady is walking on 43 years old now in his 10th Super Bowl, something like that. I think would probably be the order that ends up in. So I think that'll do it for the NFL. If you guys don't have anything to add, we'll kick it to Ashton now for the National Basketball Association.
All right, as per usual, power rankings, top five power rankings in the league. Lucas, we'll start with yours.
Number 5, I'll be putting the Los Angeles Clippers. And I mean, to me, this top 5 is very condensed. I think it's strong, and it's going to be hard to really just pull one out of the two, or one out of the 5. And to me, in terms of those 5, my bottom one is the Clippers. They've been playing great basketball lately, but I feel like they're the worst best scenario. Ashton, go ahead.
For me, my number five team is the Utah Jazz. I mean, they have currently the best record in the NBA. They are playing phenomenal. Donovan Mitchell's been a beast. Rudy Gobert's been doing his thing. I mean, all around, great roster, and it'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up.
Yeah, my number 5 team is the Philadelphia 76ers, the best record in the East. They're playing great basketball. Joel Embiid just got Player of the Month, and like Lucas said, these 5 teams are all interchangeable. To be honest with you, you could put any team at any position right now, in my opinion.
To me, number 4 is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers. Same stuff Aaron said. Embiid's playing great basketball. Simmons playing great basketball. I think you really just have to try to make a decision on where you want to draw the line. To me, the Sixers look just a little worse on the court than the other 3, and that's why I put them where I did.
My number four team is the Clippers. I mean, they recently took Big L to the Nets, but I mean, I still have faith in that roster. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and what they got going there. I think obviously it could be looking at potential Western Conference Finals appearance.
I agree with Mr. McConnell at number 4. I also have the Clippers. Yeah, I think they're right there with all these teams. They're playing some great basketball, actually. They have been on a tear lately, obviously, with that, aside from that close loss to the Nets. But yeah, that's really all I got to say on my number 4 team.
My number 3 team will be the Brooklyn Nets, to speak of the Devils. I told you guys last week I wasn't putting them in the top 5 yet. I hadn't seen them yet. They're producing. They can have number 3. I don't put them higher because their record still isn't there technically. They look good. I still predict they'll run into teammate chemistry issues eventually soon, but I think they'll be fine now because it's easier in the beginning than it is at the end.
My number 3 team is the Philadelphia 76ers. Previously had them number 2 last week. I just think, obviously, Joel Embiid having an MVP-like season, but I feel like the team I have above them, which I'll get to in a sec, I just feel like they're clicking right now, and I feel like they're the team to beat right now in the East.
My number 3 team is the Utah Jazz. I feel like me and Ashton pretty much have the same rankings here, aside from the Jazz and Sixers being flipped. They're playing out of their mind basketball. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert is a heck of a duo that's not talked about enough. And yeah.
My number 2 will match my last week number 2. I still have the Los Angeles Lakers at 2. The records are literally almost the same as they were last week in terms of how close Utah and LA are. So I left it the way it was. I'm still huge on Utah. And I still feel like they are playing as the best team in the league right now.
Going into my number 2, and I'll also say my number 1, but who I have above the Sixers, after seeing that what the Nets have been doing recently, I think they're starting to get that confidence. While I have the Lakers number 1, I just still think they need that defensive piece, that big man like what they had with Jared Allen. I still think they need that. But it seems like James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant are clicking. You saw that against the Clippers. I mean, for how much we drag on about how bad their defense was. I mean, that was one of their better games, only 120 points compared to the Wizards over 140 and obviously the Hawks and stuff. But I have the Lakers number one, LeBron, AD. AD has been kind of quiet, but LeBron's been doing his thing. The rest of the roster has been helping out, and I just think they're the team to beat right now in the league.
Yep, I pretty much agree with everything Ashton said. This Nets team is clicking, and I think they are very close to the Lakers. You know, it's neck and neck right now. James Harden is averaging 11 assists per game. I don't think people realize that. That's a crazy step up from. He's changed play styles, obviously so drastically, and he's adapting very well. As for this Lakers team, they have struggled in the past week and a half. It's not been pretty. It's not been smooth sailing. But I do think LeBron and AD can right the ship and keep them there at the number one spot.
Lucas, who's your number one team?
I already got into it. I got Utah ahead of LA. And, I mean, like I said, I just feel like Utah is still playing as the better team. At least I can say that for another week.
All right. So there's our top five. And as we were kind of talking about the Nets, we'll talk about their opponent Sunday, the Washington Wizards. Obviously a crazy finish. Wizards with an insane comeback win. And talking about Russell Westbrook, talking about his injury, he appears to be healed up, as he says. He said his leg was kind of bothering him over the past couple of weeks, but now it seems like he is fully healed. Could Washington make a comeback from their rough start and possibly be a threat in the East? Lucas, we'll start with you.
First and foremost, I think someone you have to turn focus to when you talk about this team is Rui Hachimura. I think he's that third piece that Washington's looking for. I'd also like to talk about the fact that this team is playing essentially with a ton of role players and Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, and Rui Hachimura, in my opinion. So for this claim to be that they could be a force in the East really becomes a question of how you feel about the East. I mean, the Pacers, I think, are still 4. I don't know how you would feel about the Pacers. To me, that's another
Pacers
team
are 5.
They fell. Okay, they fell another one since I last looked. To me, it's splitting hairs for me because I think Bradley Beal is capable. I think if Westbrook's actually going to play like he did that last game, and if he's going to start playing Russell Westbrook-like, this team will be a force. And if Rui can play, because apparently he doesn't know how to make minutes and not be hurt. But with those 3, to me, that could be a force to be reckoned with in the East. Outside of, it's going to be tough to beat a Brooklyn unless they're on teammate chemistry issues. A Philadelphia, unless they're on teammate chemistry issues. A Boston, unless they're on teammate chemistry issues. I mean, all 3 of those teams, to me, don't mend together as well as this Washington team, where you have 2 guys that want to score, or 3 guys that want to score the ball, and other people that just want to keep getting a contract. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I posed the question that Washington could become a force in the East. And that's where I'm sitting. Aaron?
Hell no. They have to play defense. Defense wins championships and games. They can't play a lick of defense. Rui Hachimura has been the worst graded defender ever since he's been in the league. Bradley Beal doesn't even try on defense. Neither does Russ. They have to try to get more than 4 wins in a year because they are 4-15 right now, dead last in the East.
And another thing that I want to say is if they wouldn't have lost Thomas Bryant, I think this would be a different conversation Aaron would be able to have. However, he brings up a valid point. They're starting in a horrible hole because apparently Russell Westbrook's leg hurt.
Lucas, they let up 5 more points.
I'm not saying
than
you're wrong.
any other. No, I know, but I'm not. I never said you were. We're talking to each other right now, so I'm telling you this. They give up 5 more points than any other team in basketball. 122 a game.
Yeah, that's painful. I mean, and some of defense does come from playing with emotion, really wanting to be there, and when you're 4-12 even, you don't want to be there. Now you're getting to 4-15, you're going to see less and less effort unless you're bringing in these role players that want minutes, that want to prove that they deserve to be paid $5 million plus. And that just becomes more of a, are you going to have a late push? And that's, I think Washington has a chance of a late push. A chance.
I am on the side with Aaron here. They've put themselves too much into a hole. And I'll add to this. I think their issue is not only kind of their young depth, but as far as it seems like when looking at some of their scores, whenever it's too inconsistent. Whenever they score a lot of points, they give up a lot of points. Whenever they hold their opponent to kind of less points, their offense is just not clicking. They just can't get the consistency going, and I think they're kind of in a tough spot where, I mean, what's nice for them this year is obviously the play-in situation. I forget what season you have to get to for that, but as starting off kind of 4-13 kind of hurts them big time. Already 4 games out of that 8th spot, kind of rough for them. It's just, and it'll be interesting to see if maybe they make a deal at the deadline. Beal says he wants to stay, but let's see what the Wizards want to do.
I mean, only being 4 games out, there's still a lot of season left. You're only 19 games in. They got a chance, a lot better chance than I thought. I thought they were a lot further out. I thought we were talking 7 or 8. To me, 4 games is doable. And I think we will be rehaving this conversation in 2 weeks. And it's either going to be the Washington Wizards need to sell or the Washington Wizards have a chance at making the playoffs. And we'll see which one it is.
Well, okay. Aaron's on his look in here. Last game they played, they had to score 149 points and they still won by 3. That's tough, man.
That hurts. But if you're going to score 149.
Or 2 games ago. Then the next game they let up 132. That's, I don't know.
The defense is definitely questionable. I'm not going to argue with that.
It's bad. All right, I'm done with it.
Yeah, Wizards are. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they can turn it around. Going to a couple other teams that are struggling. The Mavs and the Pelicans have been off to quite a bit of a rough start. The Mavs, I believe, they are 8-13 to start, and the Pelicans are right behind them at 7-12 in the Western Conference standings. So we'll start with the Mavs. Lucas, why do you think they've kind of been struggling so far?
To me, think that it is more or less just a slow start. I'm not going to go as far to say that this team is not good. I'm huge on Luka. I'm huge on Kristaps. But then you make the argument outside of them, what are you looking at? Josh Richardson, Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway, Jalen Brunson. I mean, to me, those are not big enough names to produce a winning team. The West is very tough this year, as pretty much any other year. I think that's where you're seeing Dallas have a problem is it's a slow start along with a lackadaisical help around the 2 stars. And in terms of New Orleans, I think this team's just still a little young, if we're being honest with ourselves. I don't think this is New Orleans' year. I think getting rid of Drew Holiday was a move that they needed to make, quote unquote, but it was getting rid of a captain of that squad. And now you're seeing the backlash of it. And I think Drew Holiday's extremely underrated, especially now that we saw what happened in the New Orleans as they spun all off the rails. And I think it just comes down to it's too early for both of these teams to be where we know they will get to. And I think come 2 years from now, it will be Mavs and Pelicans towards the top, especially if they fall down and get good draft picks.
I'll tell you why they can't win. They can't shoot. Neither team can shoot. They're both 33% from 3 this year. New Orleans is 27th. Dallas is dead last. You got to be able to shoot the 3 if you're going to win games in this league, and neither of these teams can do that at all.
Yeah, the Mavs are kind of struggling. It seems like putting up points in general. I mean, kind of looking at the scores, I think they've barely notched over 100 kind of these past couple of games or so. Yeah, the Suns, they put up 108 and 105, the Jazz 101 and 101 again to the Jazz. I mean, they've just been not even just shooting, but just a lack of scoring in general. It's been tough because Luka has been trying to carry the load. Obviously, Porzingis being back, maybe he's trying to adapt to things, but he's only shooting 43% from the field, 30% from three, and he's only averaging 18. And you traded for him to be this big star, this big second option for Luka, and he just hasn't been doing it on offensively. As far as the Pelicans, I don't really know. It's kind of the inconsistency thing I mentioned with the Mavs, or no, with the Wizards. Excuse me. One day the offense will be clicking, the defense just won't. Another day defense will be great, and the offense just can't get it going. It's just too many. Like Lucas said, Drew Holiday being gone kind of hurts them. And I think what'll be interesting. It seems like is it Stan Van Gundy or Jeff Van Gundy as the current coach?
It's one of the Van Gundys.
Yeah.
Say Van Gundy.
It seems like okay. Yeah, it seems like they are not utilizing Lonzo Ball, and that's kind of why he's been struggling. But it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of put him in a more playmaking role that he is, and if they can kind of turn it around in these next couple of months or so.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
All right, going to our next topic, kind of our final topic for the NBA, goes back to the Lakers. Obviously, we've stated our kind of teams that we think can compete in the NBA, our top 5 teams. Is there anybody that we think has closed the gap on the Lakers as far as contenders, Lucas?
We've already hinted on this heavily before, but to beat a dead horse, because apparently that's what we do around here. No, I'm kidding. But to really drive it in, to
It's
me,
called animal abuse.
animal abuse. Such a magical thing. Anyway, that was sarcastic. I'm not an animal abuser. I love all animals equally. Anyway, to me, this Lakers team is not as high up as what they were planning to be. Yes, they're good, but you got teams like the Nets now, the Jazz, the Clippers, and the Nets. As I hinted at when I started my power rankings, I said all 5 of those teams are tradable or interchangeable. And Aaron backed me up on this. I mean, to me, this is just it's probably one of the closer times of the NBA that we've seen in the last few years. Aaron, go ahead.
Yep, I am very confident in this Lakers team, as I always have been, but I do think there are teams that are closing the gap, and it's really the Nets for me. Like, if the Nets are clicking on all cylinders, they are right there with the Lakers, and that's why I'm so excited for the finals. Is like these are the 2 teams I expect to be there, and it will be such a fun matchup. I understand I'm getting way ahead of myself, but those 2 teams have been really neck and neck, and I do think they are pretty much 1A and 1B at this point.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of teams that can honestly contend with the Lakers. Obviously, Aaron mentioned the Nets. You also got the Sixers, which I've said before would, I think, be a difficult matchup for the Lakers as far as they got Ben Simmons and Embiid who can guard LeBron and AD, and they got the perimeter outside shooting with Danny Green, Seth Curry, you name it. And then also looking at the West, I mean, obviously there's the Clippers, the Jazz. I mean, they're kind of turning it up. And you also got the Nuggets. I mean, they played each other last year. And I just think this year there's more teams compared to last year where we just thought Clippers or Bucks. I think there's more a variety of teams that we could see compete with the Lakers.
Lucas, you want to start on baseball?
I would love to. Finally, it's a day that a St. Louis fan can be happy. Nolan is headed to St. Louis. Aaron, give me what you feel about this.
Well, the Rockies got robbed. Obviously, I think pretty much that's the general consensus here. They gave up Nolan and 50 million for not a top 10 prospect at all. I don't think, and it's they. There's no point to this trade. Why would you give up a guy that you don't want to pay, but then you give up 50 million so the Cardinals can pay him? That just doesn't make sense. Like the Rockies, I don't get it. They're obviously entering a rebuild. I'm gonna kind of combine our next two topics here. I think this ultimately will lead to a Trevor Story trade as well. Because, I mean, there's just no point for the Rockies to keep Trevor Story on this horrible roster. Charlie Blackmon is getting old. He can't play any defense. Like, I think it's just time for the Rockies to suck for about 5, 6 years and then maybe go for a rebuild and, maybe they can fix something up. But this trade just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't really look or see what the trade details was, but what hearing from what Aaron said, it sounds like a great deal. Obviously for the Cardinals, bad deal for the Rockies. Didn't really set up a future for them. Regarding the Cardinals, though, it looks like now they could possibly be looking at a top contender in the NL, and it all I would say it all comes down to really can the pitching be kind of consistent enough and do the job to get them where they need to be.
Coming from the Cardinals fan, I'm beyond jacked up that they kept Gorman and Carlson because I thought there was no way that could happen when we were trading for him. To me, the Rockies are selling. I think everyone in the nation knows that they're selling. I just wonder why. I mean, this seems like a little bit of an overreaction. You're sending money away. It's almost like you're trying to, like, I don't know, pull a major league and move. Obviously, that's not true, but that's what it feels like. I mean, to me, I didn't see any good scenario out of this trade. I think the Rockies are headed to the bottom. I think the Cardinals are going to be fighting in that tough NL Central this year.
Tough NL Central. What do you mean?
Talk it up before the season starts. Got to make them look better than they are. Anyway.
It's horrible.
Got to talk it up. Aaron, just let me talk like the Cardinals are.
It's the worst division in baseball.
Let me
By
talk
far.
Go ahead. Anyway, Nelson
I'm
Cruz signed
sorry.
a deal. Aaron, go ahead and talk about it.
I'm sorry. Now I know I'm a horrible person. Okay.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay, Nelson Cruz back with the Twins, 1 year, $13 million. Very excited about this one. We needed Nelson back if the Twins were going to contend in the slightest. And I think, with this deal, they're also signing Alex Colomé from the White Sox. It seems like they're going after those old school PED users. They have Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, Alex Colomé, and Michael Pineda all on the same roster. All have been popped for PEDs. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's not. Who knows? But I do love this, that Cruz is back, and I think this keeps the Twins in contention. They're obviously, I don't think they're at the top of the AL, but I think they have a shot.
Yeah, as another Twins fan, I'm happy for this. Not just for Nelson Cruz's hitting, obviously, but great leader too. If you can kind of compare someone like him that's on the Twins, Miguel Sano, obviously he's my favorite player, but he's been it seems like he's taken a little bit of the leadership role, a little bit of mentoring, because Miguel, he kind of has, obviously they're both big power guys. I mean, he's kind of developed him a little bit, and they just have a great relationship in general. And as far as contenders, I mean, the main thing is just actually being able to produce runs in the postseason, and consistent pitching is basically what it comes down to in the postseason for Minnesota.
To me, this was the smartest move that Minnesota could have made in terms of who they could have went after this late in free agency. I'm huge on Nelson Cruz. I wasn't until this year because, again, I didn't watch baseball much before this year. As Ashton hinted at, amazing leader, and I think that's something that they needed to be looking for. And they got him, and I feel like the Twins should be pretty good this coming year, personally. Aaron. Oh, wait, no, this is me, actually.
Can't disagree.
Next, we got Josh Hader. He's on the trade market. The price is high. We've had executives saying that you don't waste your time. I mean, to me, what do you guys feel Josh Hader's value should be at? I mean, obviously we know it's as people are regarding too high? I mean, where do you value Hader after this last season? Aaron, you can start.
Okay. Well, first of all, relievers never command much for trade, and it's just getting lower and lower. Obviously, as people are, recognizing that relievers don't pitch as many innings as starters, and it's just the name of the game. Relievers aren't there to be, big inning guys. They're there for high leverage situations. Josh Hader is one of the best relievers in baseball. He did not have a great year last year, if I'm remembering right off the top of my head. I believe the Twins threw their hat in that trade discussion as well. I was hearing, so I'm assuming Twins have been one of these executives saying that the price is too high. I'm sure that the Brewers are trying to, ask for a top 5 prospect in an organization and maybe then one more top 15 prospect, and that in my opinion is just a little too much for Josh Hader.
His stats, obviously, 2020 was way short a year, but comparing 2019 to 2020, 61 games played in 2019 with only 22 earned runs, 138 strikeouts, 3 wins, 5 losses, saves, a whip of .81 with an ERA of 2.62, and comparing it to 2020, 21 8 earned runs, 31 saves, 2 losses, 13 saves, a .95 whip with a 9 ERA. And just looking at his ERA in general, from 2017 up to 2020, it's gone from 2.08 to 2.43 to 2.62 to 3.79. And looking at it, it seems like the value is kind of lowering a little bit, and it seems like he may be regressing. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Just kind of looking at these kind of just basic stats is time as far as top reliever. Maybe as the best reliever is kind of not that he won't be a good reliever, but as far as the top reliever, seems like it could be diminishing a little bit.
And that brings up an excellent point. I mean, you're getting to the point now where, like, his stats have gone down. I think now Milwaukee's trying to get what they could have got a year ago, 2 years ago, when he was indefinitely better than he is now. And now I think you're starting to see question marks next to his name. And as Aaron said, they're reaching for too many prospects, and it just becomes one of those things where teams say, I don't want to do it because you're giving up way too much for someone who just might not still be there.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with you guys fully on the fact that, if he's regressing or not. I think he can still be one of those top 5, top 3 relievers in baseball, in the coming years. But, yeah, we'll see. He is a very fastball-reliant pitcher, so he needs to get that fastball velocity back up if he wants to remain dominant.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize he is only 26. So I mean, and you notice it in baseball. 1 year, one guy can have an amazing year. The next year, they can kind of fall off. I mean, maybe it's just one of those. He's on kind of a little bit of a slump, and then next coming years he picks it up. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens and see if he can keep up that high velocity and just develop the rest of his.
Yeah, and just looking at stats real quick, his strikeout percentage was actually 5% lower last year than his career. His ground ball percentage was higher. His ERA was significantly higher, 1.4 higher than his career. And his FIP, fielding independent pitching, was over a point higher as well. So those do not bode well for him, but we'll see if he can bounce back. Otherwise, is that all we have, gentlemen?
That is indeed.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Sports Enthusiast podcast. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at the Sports Enthusiast, Twitter at SportsENTPod. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to be on the podcast, any of the above. DMs are open on all platforms, so feel free to reach out. Other than that, hopefully you guys have a fantastic day, night, evening, morning, whatever you're listening this to, and we'll see you next week.